Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, we already migrate our all the database table and also we have created one of the super user, right? So now for our album, so that is our album table, and also for our musician table, I want to create some of the template, and also I want to create some of the view page for display all that our album data and the musician data. So if you want to do that work, I think you already know about it because in our basic all that fundamental, I have already discussed about that things with you. So now we will use it again. I hope now it will be more interactive to you. Like here in our fast application, into the fast application, first of all we have to work in our views area. So that means our views file. So into this views file, I have already discussed about that things with you. So that is our index method, that means index function. Into the index function, I define that request, right? So now I want to do the same things again. So right now I don't need this. I just simply remove everything from here. I want to do that things again. So first of all, that is our index. So I will need it. So that is our index function. Into the diction, I want to define one of the ID, and I just name that ID as a title. Okay, I just name it as a title, and here in particular that area I want to display some of the text for this one, and I just name it as a like a home page. Okay, so that's will be our string data. And after that, there is a return, render, and the request. That means with this request, I have to define load some of the HTML page, right? So we have to create some of the HTML page. So right now, I just make that things as a blank, because in our template area, into the fast application, into the fast app, here we have to create some of the HTML page, right? So right now, I just simply define our function name as index. So and after that, we just pass our this diction data with this context, and that is our diction. Perfect. So now I want to create another one. So I just simply copy it. I want to create another one for our album. We have to create another one for our musician. So here I define another function. I define another function as an album list. Okay, album underscore list. So friend, I think you already know about every line because I have already discussed about that things with you in our fundamental, right? So as I told you, step by step, everything will be very much clear to you because here we already learn it, and now we will use it, and with this we will create one of the code applications, and laterally we will create some of the multiple project. So as I told you, step by step, everything will be very much clear to you. So now here I define another function as a album list, and it will be just like the same with the request, our dictionary with the diction. I just simply define the ID as a title, and here I want to pass some of the text as a list of album. Okay, list of albums. So this type of one of the text will be displayed, and then it should be also returned render with our another page. That means here we have to define one of the HTML page. So right now I didn't create any HTML page. I will do the things later, and after that I want to create another one, and I just name it as a musician form, because we have to also load our musician form again, which we have already did. So now I just simply name it our function name as a musician form. That is a request, our title, and here I want to define our title. So here I want to insert some of the data. So I just name it as add musician, right? So I just name some of the string text as add musician. And also we have to add our album. That means for our album they have some of the field. So now I want to add this data. So previously I have already discussed about that things with you, how can create this one of the form with our musician table, right? So by default it's automatically created some of the form. So now we will do that things again. So it should be just like that same procedure. Okay, so for the reasons here, I want to create another one. So here I want to create another function, and I just name it as a album. Okay, album underscore form. I just name it as album form, and here I want to define as a add album. Okay, I just name it as a add album. So now we have to define our HTML page. That means here in our fast app, I have already created one of the base HTML. So into this base HTML, I have already defined our title. So that is our bootstrap link, that is bootstrap CDN CSS link, bootstrap CDN, all that, our JS link, right? And also here I define one of the block. So I have already discussed about that things with you, and here that is our navbar. So right now I want to update our this navbar. Okay, so here I want to update it. Like right now I want to take another one. I just take another one. So right now I don't need this. I will do that things later. I just simply remove it. Okay, so here that is our URL, and on the fast tab that is our index. So here if you want to use that URL, I think you already know about it. So now I want to define some of the menu as a home. Another menu I want to define as a add musician. Okay, add musician, and also I want to define another one for the add album. Okay, add album. Perfect. And now also in our index, so into the index here we have to define our extended, our fast tab, and the base HTML is perfect. So here we don't need this. I just simply remove it. So here there is our block, our body, there is a body block. So I think you already know about it, because in our base HTML here I have defined that as a block, body block, right? So into the index HTML, so here I have to defining it, and also in our h1 tag here I name it as a home page. Okay, I just name it as a home page. And also we have to create some of the page. Like here we have to create some of the page in our fast tab. So right now this form, so here we don't need this. I just simply remove it. I just delete it from here. Okay, I just simply remove it. And now in our fast tab area, I want to create some of the page, like as I just open, and I want to create some of the page as a album form, album underscore form. Okay, form.html. And then I also want to create another one. Click as a new file, and also I want to create another one for our musician form, musician underscore form.html. And also for display all that our album list, I want to create another file. Click as a new one, and I just name it as a album list underscore list.html. Now click as a enter. So now here we have to update it. Like here everything will be within our blog area. So I just simply copy it, and now everything will be extended to our fast tab and the base HTML, right? I think you already know about it. So in our album form, I just simply define, and here it should be as our album. Okay, album form. It should be as an album form. The musician form, here I paste it, and I just name it as a musician form. And also for our album list, here I want to display some of the h1 tag with our list of album. Okay, I just name it as a list of album. Perfect. So here I have already created all that our HTML view page. Now click as a save all. So now we have to add all that file. So right now we don't need this. Okay, so now we have to add all that file in our view, into the view, like that is our home. And for the home, I want to load our this index, that means index.html. So if you want to load it, you have to define your folder name. That means in our template I have created as a fast tab, and into the fast tab that is our index, right? So that is all that basic. I have already discussed about that things with you. That is our fast tab, and into the fast tab I have created one of the HTML page as index.html, right friend? And also we have to define our another one, that means our list, album list. For the album list I have created another page as a album list. So here I want to load our album underscore list, right? Album list.html. And then our musician, for the musician form I have created another HTML page as a musician form. So here I just paste it. In our fast tab it should be as a musician. Okay, musician underscore form. So musician underscore form.html. And for the album form I have created another one as a album form HTML. So I just simply paste it, and it should be as a album. Okay, album form.html. So now we have to create some of the URL for this one, right? So if you want to create some of the URL, then you have to go to your first application, and that is our URL. So into the URL, by default I have already created as a home. That means this will be as a home, and then before I use that another path for the form. So right now we don't need this. I just simply remove it, and now better I want to do it, copy it, and now I want to create some of the path for this one. Like first of all, that will be as a home, and for the home, that is our views. I have already created one of the index, right? So I have already created one of the index function, so it's perfectly okay, and I just name it as the index, right? And after that also I want to define our album. That means the album form, musician form, and the album list. So now first of all I want to do work for our album form. I just copy it, and here I just define one of the path. Okay, so here I just simply define one of the path, whatever you want. So right now I'm defining as a album forms, and then the slash, that will be our URL. And in our views, into the views, I have created one of the function as a album form, and I just name that as a album form. Okay, so here if you want to change it, you can change it. I think you already know about it, that basic thing. So in our views, I have created our function name as a album form. So into this position, I just simply define our views album form. Perfect. And after that also I want to define another one for our musician form. I just simply copy it. And now first of all here you have to define your URL. So I just simply define that URL, right? And after that URL, in our views, that will be our musician form, and I just name it as a musician form. And also I have created another one for our album list. I just simply copy it, and here you just simply define as a album list, and then our views album list, and then our index album list. Okay friend, so here that is actually the URL. Okay, if you want to change it as a album slash list, then it's perfectly okay. They have nothing worried about it. So that is actually the URL. So if you also want to change it, like if you only want to make the things as an album, then you have to call it with this name, right? So now it's okay with me. I just make the things as the same. That means the album list, that means album list, and that album list. So here I have done it. Now we can actually use this path in our base URL. So if you go to our base HTML, into the base HTML, I have already defined our home. And for the home, as I told you before, first of all there is our key as a URL, and then our name. So into this app, that means URL, here I have defined one of the app name as a first name, right? So with this first name you can define your all that path name. So here you can see our path name as the index for our index. So for the reasons in our URL, I have defined our first app. Into the first app, I have defined our path name as the index. So now we have to do the same things for our add one. Like I just copy it and I paste it, and also here I paste it. So for the add musician, I have defined our path. So our path name as a musician form, right? So that will be our URL, and here I name it with the musician form. So with our app name, I have defined as a fast app. So after that fast app, we have to define our name as a musician form. So now I just simply copy it, and now for this one here I define our musician form. And also we have to do the same things for our add album. So for the add album, I define that name as a album form. I just copy it, and now here I name it as a album form. Perfect. So our navigation bar is now totally ready. So now let's check this out. I just click as a save all. So better I just remove everything. I want to run our server again. Click as a terminal, and I just will define as a Python, and then manage.py and the run server. Click on the enter. Our server is totally running, and that is our link. So now go here. So that is our link. So now I just click as a refresh. Yes, now you can see friend, now that is actually our menu as a home. Here I have defined as a add musician, and that is our add album. And as I told you before, here I'm load our index, right? So for the index I have defined. So here everything I think you already know about it. So into the view here I load our album list, our musician list, and also I have created all that page. So that is our base HTML. Into the base HTML, I block it with our body block, and here that is our navbar, right? So our navbar is perfectly now visible, and also is getting our bootstrap, our navbar. So now in particular that area, I load our HTML. That means our index HTML. So into this index HTML, I define that name as a home page. Because of all, in our view, into the view here, you can say I define our index HTML, right? And also now if you go to our add musician, yeah, you can see it's now showing us a musician form is perfectly loaded. If you added our add album is perfectly loaded. So for the reasons here, if you go our album form, you can see I name it as a album form. If you go to that musician form, that is actually the musician form. So now that is our HTML, all the tag is now visible. So that is our musician form. And here one thing, so I have already defined, you can see that is actually our this title. So this title is static title. Because of all, in our base URL, that means in our base HTML, here I have defined as a title as a this one, right? So now I want to make the things dynamic. So I have already defining it in our views, and here every time I define that ID name as a title. So if you use this title, like here I want to use it, then automatically for our every pages, I have defined every pages in ID as the same as a title. That means it's automatically will be updated. Like if you go to our base HTML, and here I want to change it, and I just make the things as a title. So now let's check this out. If you now click as a save all, and now if you refresh it, yes, you can see now it's actually home page. So if you go to that add musician, you can see it's now showing as a add musician. That means in our view here, I define as a for our musician as a add musician. For our album form, I define that name as a add album, and for the home, I just simply define as a home page, right? That means now if you are in our this URL as a musician form. For the reasons you can see it's now showing as a title as a add musician. If you go to that add album, you can see our title is updated, and that is our URL is also updated. Okay friends, so I think it's very much clear to you. So next video I want to load our musician, all that form, in particular that area, and from here I want to insert this data. Okay, and also we have to do the same things for our album. So step by step we'll cover it. Everything will be very much clear to you. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.